Oh, my name's Aaron, otherwise known as Eclipse for those of you that know me from Rocket League. I am an RLCS coach. I coached Endpoint for the last 2.5 years, and I'm looking to start YouTube, which is why I'm here. So this is going to be my first video, and I thought, what better way to start a YouTube career slash channel slash everything to do with YouTube other than to start off with where to start as a beginner, because that's where I am right now with YouTube. So I'm going to help you guys improve as a beginner and explain to you how improvement works in Rocket League and how to get yourself from bronze to grand champ as quick as possible, following simple rules. They change as you go up the ranks, the things you have to focus on change, but the general idea of how to improve in Rocket League is always the same. I've not yet seen an actual video describing this to anyone, so I'm here to help. I saw on Twitter a couple of weeks ago that people were discussing and trying to figure out what is the best way to improve. Like, should you be trying to get fast aerials to get out of plat quicker? Should you be trying to do half flips? Should you be trying to learn flip resets, air dribbles? All of these great skills. The answer is none of them. None of it matters. Ultimately, you learn it when you learn it. And that's where we got to start, with the very basic of basic things. The mechanics you thought were the best thing ever to get you out of bronze, platinum, gold, silver, all of those ranks. None of them matter if you can't do the basics, right? And so we've got to look at Rocket League in the layers, and it's all about layers. And so you've got to look at it like the planet. So the planet, you have the inner core, outer core, mantle, well, inner mantle, outer mantle, and then you have the crust. And then you have your oceans and stuff that go above that. And that's all your filler. All the stuff on that top is the filler. That's the things you don't necessarily need for a planet, but they make a planet kind of nice to live on. To build these layers, what you're essentially doing is building layers of muscle memory. So you use that then so that when you're playing, you're subconsciously doing actions because you subconsciously react quicker than you do consciously. Because when you consciously react, you've got to think about it, then do it. Whereas when you subconsciously do it, you're just doing it. Like, so there's you're cutting out the middleman, you're cutting out that thinking process. The thinking process should almost always be reserved for the times when you're trying to do something fancy. So when you're trying to get past someone, when you're trying to think, how do I beat this man? How do I beat that guy? How do I beat this person? And so that's where you allow yourself to develop these layers to make yourself able to do those things. And where's the most basic thing to start to be able to do those? It's understanding movement. Understanding the movement of not just yourself, not just other players, but the ball. The most important skill being able to track the ball. Like, I see people saying that it's X mechanic or Y mechanic. You can have a best mechanic, but the most important skill will always and forever be the ability to read the ball. Of the walls, the floor, the way it bounces, the way it spins when it comes off the wall. It doesn't actually have curve in the air, but the spin of the ball does change the direction it's coming. And these are the things you learn. And that's the most basic. That's your fundamental layer. As you play the game, that layer is only going to get thicker. You're going to get better and better and better. And your core becomes stronger. And that's where you then start pulling layers on top of it. So the next basic thing is being able to hit the ball. So you've learned how to track it. You can fall. You understand when it's going to do things. But now you've got to build the mechanical ability to be able to hit the ball. To do that is both very simple and very annoying at the same time. You essentially, the best way to do it, and the way you'll see a lot of people say, because it is true, is to go into free play, hit the ball as hard as you can, and then keep hitting the ball as hard as you can over and over and over and over and over again. And then once you get good at doing that on the floor, you then start adding things to it. So you add, flipping into it, jumping into it, different ways of hitting it. And that's after you get to that point of you can consistently hit the ball, you've built the second layer. The inner core would be your ability to track the ball, move around with the ball, move yourself, and see other people's movement. That's the base. If you can't do that, you aren't going to do anything. Like, every other layer is not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. The outer core then would be your ability to actually hit the ball. And I know this is going to sound counterintuitive. And this is where people come in and why people explain you need to learn X mechanic or Y mechanic to improve. And they don't talk about it in this layer sense. It's because after you've learned how to do the mechanic or the skill that I'm referring to here, so i.e. hitting the ball, off a wall, off a thing, that then can expand. So if you think of your planet as a burgeoning planet in a new solar system, it's still getting rocks hitting it, and the core will forever still expand to a point. until you've hit mastery. And so that's what the layers do. You layer one thing, you get that to grips, you get, let's say it takes you 10 hours to learn movement, so that you're comfortable with movement. You then spend 10 hours learning how to hit the ball properly. When you're doing those 10 hours of hitting the ball, you're still building your muscle memory and your ability of developing your base levels. And so that's where you've got to go. You've got to go step by step. And so you move from those basics, and then you start looking at more complex mechanics in the game. That's when you start learning your ability to fast aerial. Your ability to aerial, not even your ability to fast aerial. I'm getting way ahead of myself there. Your ability to the aerial in the first place, being able to jump and boost that ball, that's then going to take into account both of those lower layers that you just practiced, the things you just learned, the way you're trying to improve. You've then got to use those to do aerial. And that's when you start building the third layer, and that layer is just extra mechanics. And that's the way you've got to keep going. The biggest thing you can't let yourself do as a beginner, a novice, intermediate, jumping hoops. You can't build a planet by just going, okay, I'm going to build this core and then I'm going to have the crust. That is called an asteroid. No one wants to be an asteroid. Everyone wants to be a really cool bloody planet, right? You've got to make sure that your plan and the way you play is to build through the most basic mechanics that you can think of. Because, as I've already stated, when you get those down, start moving on to more complex things. That is the generalized way of looking at how to improve the best at Rocket League. I've put this towards a beginner because I wanted to talk about it from the very basics. Someone that's already platinum even, probably already has these main core ideas that I'm talking about here. But what they might be trying to do now, and the reason they aren't improving, and I would consider them, okay, I think they're above average, right? Platinum, I think, is above average these days. So, in theory, they should be already good, right? They should be past the beginner stage. But sadly, I find Rocket League's learning curve is very much slow, boom. It's very much exponential. I think you learn the game much quicker after time. I think in the beginning, it's the hardest time to learn the game, personally. What can you do to try and counteract trying to jump through those layers too soon? The best way to do it is to stick to a regime. Obviously, that's not the easiest thing, but it is the best way. If you stick to I'm going to do this training for this for X amount of time, and this only comes to the very beginning of the game. After maybe about GC, I'd say. After then, that's why I said GC at the start, is because after GC, that's when your way to improve is still this. It still works to try and build it layer by layer. So a flip reset takes into account your ability to double tap, your ability to air dribble, your ability to aerial. So when you start learning flip resets, you generally improve the rest of it as well. And that's the idea. And you can go and watch plenty of pros go and do an air dribble into a flip reset, double tap, blah 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 blah, or a freestyler. It all comes together at some point. Yeah, so after Grand Champ, that's when this method of improvement slows down rapidly, because at around Grand Champ level, you should start mastering most of the basic mechanics, and that's when you need to start adding those more flashy things. Game sense and everything also plays into that, and that is something that is much more difficult to personally reflect on. However, to improve with your game sense and other things, you can watch people on YouTube, you can watch RLCS, you can watch all those things. Those things will show you the general gist of what you're doing right and wrong, and you can kind of understand it from other points. I don't want to go into the whole game sense rotation side of things in this video because that would take way too long. I hope that helps all of you out there that really wanted to understand the best way to improve. Now, I haven't given you a regime. I haven't exactly explained what you should do to improve. I can do that in a follow-up video if you would like. Comment and let me know. But as of right now, this is just me explaining this is the way to improve. You shouldn't be trying to learn some fancy mechanic. You should be just trying to start from the basics and move your way up. That way you're going to be way more consistent and better as you improve. So, I've been Eclipse. I hope you guys have really enjoyed. This is my first YouTube video again. If there's any improvements you think I could make, let me know. Again, down in the comments, you know, giving me a like on my first video would be very much appreciated. And subscribe if you want to see more content on coaching and stuff. This is the kind of thing I want to look at. I'm going to try and do more fun videos as well. I got a couple planned to try and do stuff with other people. But I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.